On a rainy day, my boyfriend John called me to bring him some rain gear. I stood at the door of the private room, watching my first love snuggle up to him on his lap. Everyone was laughing, but I felt a bit uncomfortable inside. When the gathering ended, the wind and rain outside were fierce. I was knocked over by the wind and bumped my stomach, splattering some rainwater on the ground. He hurried past me, carrying my first love in his arms. "Be good, let me carry you into the car to keep your feet dry." That night, I saw him sharing a romantic candlelight dinner with his first love on Moments. Calmly, I dialed the phone and asked, "Teacher, is that spot for studying abroad still available? I want to give it a try." The doctor said that due to the injury, I am 1 month pregnant and there are signs of a potential miscarriage. As the father of the child, John Liu should be informed. I called him, but when the call connected, I heard a gentle female voice. It was raining heavily outside, and John wasn't coming back here tonight, he was taking a shower. "If you have something to say, you can tell me directly." I hung up the phone, my hands trembling slightly. "Doctor, I don't want this baby anymore." After the surgery, I found a friend request on my phone. The profile picture looked very familiar. Through this request, I noticed that her chat box was right next to John's. No wonder it seemed so familiar, it turned out to be a couple's avatar. John and I have been in a relationship for 7 years, and his profile picture has never changed. I once jokingly suggested that he change his profile picture, but he didn't seem very happy about it. I felt that since we were in a relationship, there was no need to engage in such trivial matters. When I opened Emma Ye's Moments, I saw that she had posted an update. She wrote, "After being away for so many years, I've returned as the princess of your heart. From now on, we will never be apart." The accompanying photo showed a romantic candlelight dinner, with their hands tightly intertwined, and tattoo designs on their fingers. Once, he thought that couples' avatars were childish and that the sense of ceremony was boring, but that was only because he didn't love at the time, and his standards were different. The teacher was very pleased to hear that I wanted to study abroad. "Alright, I'll submit your information right now, but didn't you say you were planning to get married?" "Let's put that aside for now, my career is more important." I was awakened by a phone ringing in the middle of the night. Groggy, I answered and heard John's anxious voice. "Sharon, what should I do when I have menstrual cramps?" I suddenly felt a pang of concern in my heart. I should see a doctor. I remember one time when my cramps were so severe that my face changed color. I asked him to help me buy some pain relief medication. However, he seemed very impatient and thought that girls are always a hassle, believing that one should just endure the pain. The next day, I was practicing my spoken English when he came home with Emma. "What are you talking about? Don't make it awkward for her. Emma has been abroad for a few years, why not let her teach you?" "No need." I put away my computer and went back to my bedroom. Emma walked in casually, wearing a slightly provocative and smug expression. "I'm really sorry about last night. I was planning to just tough through the menstrual pain, but John got too nervous and insisted on calling you to ask. I hope it didn't disturb you." "What if I said it was indeed a disturbance?" Emma lowered her head, looking rather guilty. "We truly didn't mean to bother you, John was probably too anxious and couldn't find anyone else suitable to ask." Just then, John walked in and, with concern, pulled her aside without asking me many questions. "Sharon, as a woman, it's one thing not to understand, but how could you also make Emma upset?" They had been gone for only a short while when I heard Emma's excited voice, "John, this photo frame is beautiful. I love it." I quickly got up and saw that Emma was holding the unique frame that contained a photo of John and me. 7 years ago, John had personally collected shells and crafted that one-of-a-kind frame. I was touched by his sincerity and agreed to be with him. You could say that this photo frame is a token of love between John and me. This is what it means to like someone. Emma exclaimed, jumping up with excitement and giving John a kiss on his cheek. When Sharon saw me, he hurriedly stepped back and said, "I was just so happy, don't get me wrong. I really like this picture frame. Could you bear to give it to me?" John wanted to speak, but I hurried to say it before him. "Well, if you like it, then I'll give it to you since I don't need it anyway." I stepped forward, took out the photo, and casually tore it up, throwing it into the trash can. I didn't plan to keep the frame, and I didn't want to care about John anymore. The next morning, I was eating the egg crepe I had bought. John was sitting across from me, pinching his nose, and asked why I was having such a heavy meal so early in the morning. I used to enjoy food with strong flavors, but he preferred milder tastes. Ever since I got together with John, I've given up all the heavy flavored foods. Now, I just want to make myself happy and no longer accommodate others. John noticed that I wasn't speaking, so he started talking to himself in an attempt to lighten the mood. "Do you want some milk? I can help with that." He placed a pot on the stove and then headed to the bathroom. Shortly after, I heard the sound of milk boiling over in the kitchen, and I had no choice but to get up and turn off the heat. John's phone screen lit up with a message from Emma: "The new sailor outfit has arrived. When do you have time, John? I want to show you." "Why are you looking at my phone?" John suddenly appeared behind me and pushed me angrily. As we collided, the milk pot behind us tipped over, and hot milk splashed onto my arm, making me feel a sharp sting instantly. My skin quickly became red, swollen, and blistered, causing me severe pain. "Sharon, I'm so sorry, it was not intentional," John said when he saw my injuries. He hurriedly changed his clothes and took me to the hospital. While the doctor treated my wounds, John was outside making a phone call, a slight smile on his face that showed he cared. At home, I needed to avoid water and stick to a light diet. After the doctor finished speaking, John happened to hang up the phone. Emma organized a class reunion, and we should go together. I was about to refuse, but he looked unhappy. "Sharon, can't you be a little more enthusiastic? You used to say that I never took you to meet my friends, and now that I'm bringing you along, you're making excuses." I didn't want to fuss over an argument before leaving, so I went to the class reunion with him. As soon as we entered the room, Emma jumped out from the door and clung to John like a koala. When she saw me, she reluctantly let go of him. We used to always be like this, and it might take a while for us to change that habit. Sharon would understand that it's just a small thing, right? I chuckled softly and shook my head, saying, "It's fine, you all carry on." John looked at me in surprise, but before he could say anything, Emma pulled him over to the seat beside her. "Sharon, sorry. I didn't know you were coming. I'll get you an extra chair in a bit." I sat across from them, watching as John placed the prepared sauce in front of Emma. "Just like before, you want it spicier but less numbing, and you want green onions without any cilantro, right?" He took a black rubber band out of his pocket and skillfully tied Emma's long hair back casually. Then, he swapped the iced drink in front of him, reminding himself that his period wasn't over yet and he shouldn't drink anything cold. This was all part of the care and thoughtfulness he had shown me over the past 7 years. Emma, panting, placed the half-eaten rice cake into John's bowl. "It's too spicy, don't waste it. You eat it." John naturally picked up the piece of rice cake and put it in his mouth. Usually, someone who claims to be a perfectionist and doesn't eat spicy food is now enjoying extremely spicy rice cakes that someone else has bitten into. "John, don't just pay attention to me, look at Sharon. Her plate is empty." John quickly glanced at me and picked up a piece of lamb, intending to put it on my plate. I quickly lifted my plate to avoid it. "No, thank you, I don't eat that." John felt a bit unhappy after being rejected and frowned. "What are you angry about now? I was too busy earlier to pay attention to you, so why are you still throwing a temper? If you like it, then go ahead and eat. If you don't want to, that's fine too." I calmly looked at him and pointed to the injury on my arm. The doctor said to have a light diet and to avoid beef and lamb. John was a bit taken aback and didn't know how to respond. I suggested, how about I order some light vegetables for you? No need, you guys continue. I'm heading back. John said as he followed me out. Sharon, why are you being so disrespectful to me? I won't take you out anymore. That's fine. I never really belonged to their circle anyway. John didn't expect me to be so decisive. Before, whenever he spoke harshly, I would give in. When John returned, he was holding a piece of mango cake. Emma said she didn't know you couldn't eat spicy food, so she specifically chose this cake to apologize to you. She wanted you to give her a call later to thank her. I didn't even look at it and pushed it far away. John, we've been together for 7 years, do you really not know that I'm allergic to mangoes? He was taken aback for a moment, wanting to explain but not knowing where to start. He remembered his ex's menstrual cycle and her preferences, yet somehow forgot that I had mentioned my allergy to mangoes. It's okay, I'll pay more attention next time. Since you don't like mangoes, you can at least accept this gift, right? He took out a bottle of perfume from his pocket, which was clearly used. I just saw this perfume on Emma's social media, it's almost expired, and throwing it away would be a waste. It's better to give it to someone who needs it. I am the beggar she mentioned, the beggar in love. I don't need this, you can give it to Emma. John was determined to take his anger out on me. During our argument, the perfume bottle fell and shattered on the ground. Sharon, have I been too polite to you? It's just that I didn't cook your favorite dishes during the day. How long are you going to keep making a fuss about this? You look really tired. If you decide not to be together anymore, don't come back later asking for my forgiveness. John's patience had finally reached its limit, and the indifference returned to his expression. He turned around and lay down on the sofa in the living room. In the middle of the night, I heard suppressed laughter. Looking through the crack in the door, I saw John, who claimed he never stayed up late, lying on the sofa, eagerly chatting on his phone. His eyes were filled with delight, and he seemed to be in high spirits. But a wave of coldness hit me, and I wrapped myself tightly in the blanket. The next day, when I went to school to handle some paperwork, my phone kept buzzing, but I couldn't check it in time. When I got home, I saw John sitting on the couch. What are you busy with? You didn't reply to my messages. I took out my phone and saw the many photos he had sent me of lipstick brands and color shades. What brands and shades of lipstick do you girls usually like to use? 3 years ago, when we were shopping together and passed by a cosmetics counter, I wanted to try on a lipstick. He looked at me with disdain, seemingly thinking that no matter how many beautiful lipsticks I put on, they wouldn't change my original appearance. Today, he unusually handed me a lipstick. You've been wanting a lipstick for a long time, right? How about this one? Do you like it? I glanced at it, it was a very vibrant pink, which didn't quite suit my skin tone. I shook my head to indicate that I was used to going without makeup and didn't need it. John fell silent for a moment, then picked up his phone and went into the bathroom to start a video call. I checked Emma's moments and saw that she recently posted a table full of lipsticks. John, as clueless as ever about women's feelings, actually bought me lipsticks in every color. Is this what they call lipstick freedom? I probably won't be able to use them all in my lifetime. While John was on the phone, I started packing my personal belongings into my suitcase. While changing clothes, he instinctively asked, "Why is the wardrobe so empty?" I got rid of some unnecessary clothes. Well, out with the old, in with the new. If you go shopping later, you can go with Emma, her taste is better than yours. I remained silent, and he took a pillow and went to sleep on the sofa. Since Emma came back, he either spends the night out or sleeps on the sofa, and we haven't slept together for a long time. I think this arrangement is quite good, it saves me from feeling awkward about having to find a place to stay. The next day, I slept until noon, and when I got up, I went straight to cook a bowl of snail noodles. To my surprise, he was still at home, pinching his nose and with a look of disgust, he said, how can you eat something that smells so bad? I saw a post on Emma's social media where she was eating stinky tofu with him at a street food stall. Sharon, you have one day to make 1,000 caviar mooncakes. I previously took the exam for a Michelin 3-star chef certification. Throughout these years with John, I've made all the cakes and desserts at home by myself. After he said this, he might have realized how difficult this request was. It's okay if you can't make that many, just try to make as many as you can. I interrupted him and said, sure, no problem. The first time I met him was during a chaotic scene on the street when an out-of-control car came speeding towards us. He pulled me to the side. I was fine, but he got injured. You could say he saved my life, which is why I've endured so much over the years. Our first encounter left a profound impression on me. Once I finish making this 1,000 mooncakes, I will consider everything between us settled. Seeing my calm expression, John felt a bit anxious inside. How about I go with you to buy the materials? He suggested. No need, I can manage on my own. I replied. In the past, I always hoped he would accompany me, wishing to see him every moment. Yet now, I found myself actively refusing. It seems my feelings have finally reached their end. What I didn't know was that John was silently watching my back from upstairs. Thankfully, I had prepared a large oven beforehand, and after putting in a lot of effort, I finally finished baking 1,000 mooncakes by the agreed time. After the mooncakes were delivered, I was so exhausted that I collapsed on my bed and fell asleep. I'm not sure how long I slept, but then the phone rang. Sharon, what are you up to? Is there something going on? I replied drowsily. It seemed that upon hearing I was sleepy, his voice naturally softened a lot. It's nothing, I just wanted to thank you. The mooncakes you made are great, everyone loved them. Are you tired? Before I could say anything, the person on the other side started chatting with him. I didn't expect Emma to be so skilled, even Master Gung praised her highly and wanted her to be his disciple. I instinctively tightened my grip on my phone, and my heart rate quickened a little. Master Gung's position in the Chinese culinary world is irreplaceable. I have often told John that if I had the chance to learn from Master Gung, I would be very satisfied. He always said he would help me make connections, but 7 years have passed, and that opportunity has now gone to Emma. Moreover, she used the mooncakes I made by hand as her stepping stone. After the small talk was over, John held his phone, feeling uneasy but trying hard to stay calm. Emma specifically booked a room at the club to invite you to an event as a thank you, so remember to prepare for it. He didn't explain what he had said earlier. I glanced around the empty room and suddenly felt an urge to leave. But then I thought, since we had a wonderful beginning, we should part on good terms. When I arrived at the designated place, the atmosphere in the booth was already very lively. Emma was blushing and was embracing John intimately. A friend who had just come back from the restroom saw me standing at the door and pulled me into the room. Upon seeing this, John immediately pushed Emma away, his face showing a panicked expression. Moments earlier, Emma had been holding on to John's arm, saying that they were playing a game and John had lost a round of truth or dare. Sharon, you can't be that fragile, can you? I suppressed the discomfort in my heart and said, well, that's nice. You all carry on. Seeing that I wasn't as angry as she had expected, Emma lowered her head to adjust her dress, revealing the Hetian jade necklace around her neck. This necklace was a gift from John's mother when I met his parents. She said it had been blessed and was traditionally passed down to the daughters-in-law of the Liu family. Later, I thought I'd lost it and felt quite guilty about it all along. At that time, John criticized me, saying that if I couldn't even take care of my own things, what else could I do? He pointed out that it was a family heirloom of the Liu family, and if I didn't want to become a daughter-in-law of the Liu family, there were plenty of others who did. Of course, the person in front of me clearly couldn't wait to rise in status. John looked a bit anxious, quickly glanced at me, and then held my hand. Emma wasn't well, and Tian Nuanyu could help her with her health. I only took a necklace, since she liked it, I decided to give it to her. After all, that piece didn't really suit me. I decisively get rid of anything that is unsuitable. I have something to attend to, so I'll be leaving first. Emma looked guilty and asked Sharon, "You're not angry about what just happened, are you?" I took Emma's hand and placed it into John's hand. I wasn't angry at all. Seeing the two of you so well matched makes me think that maybe you should get back together. After I finished speaking, I turned and walked away, feeling very calm inside. However, John rushed after me, looking quite flustered. "Sharon, Emma and I are really not what you think we are. There's nothing between us. You don't need to explain anything about your relationship with her to me. Sharon, you can't just jump to conclusions, it was only a game." Suddenly, the fire alarm went off in the club, and thick smoke began to fill one of the private rooms. The crowd was panic-stricken and running outside. Before I could react, John had already taken Emma and vanished into the throng. He stood in the crowded square, suddenly remembering that Sharon was still inside. Just as he was about to rush in, Emma tightly grabbed his hand. I ran out through the back door, hurriedly returned home, and rushed to the airport with my suitcase. Before the flight, I sent John a message, "Happy breakup." Then I turned off my phone and removed the SIM card, leaving behind the 7 years of my relationship with him. After more than 10 hours of traveling, memories of the moments spent with John flooded my mind. Over those 7 years, my youth had endured tremendous pain, and my heart felt as if it had weathered a tsunami, leaving it in ruins. As I got off the plane, I gazed at the foreign sky and took a deep breath. I had hit the wall, it was indeed time to start anew. After getting settled, I wanted to let my teacher know that I was safe. When I opened my email, I found an unread message. My heart raced slightly as I clicked on it, silently hoping to come across some of the remorseful twists that are often found in novels, as that would at least bring me a little unexpected thrill. Taking a deep breath, I opened the email and discovered it was a message from the bridal shop. They had been unable to reach me and were inquiring whether I would still be able to make it for the planned wedding photo shoot this weekend. I decided to forego the deposit, cancel the appointment for the weekend, and no need to postpone any further. Thank you. After replying to the message, I couldn't help but feel a sense of loss and sadness, and the scene I had hoped for, him regretting the breakup, didn't materialize. I thought to myself, during the fire, he didn't even care about my safety, so how could he possibly take our breakup seriously? Maybe he even felt a sense of relief. I got a new SIM card and sent the number to my teacher. While sitting on the sofa organizing my school materials, the teacher called. She asked, "Sharon, didn't you tell your boyfriend about your plans to study abroad? He just came to see me and said that if he couldn't find you, he would have to call the police." I could tell he was very worried, so I gave him your number and address. You young people should have a good talk, avoiding the issue isn't a solution. The most important thing is to avoid leaving any regrets. The teacher spoke sincerely, and I knew she meant well. Just as I hung up the phone, John called me. I instinctively held my breath as I looked at the familiar number on the screen, and in an instant, I felt a sense of relief. When the call connected, John greeted me loudly through the receiver. "Sharon, what do you mean? Who told you to sneak abroad? We've been together for 7 years, and you suddenly leave without considering my feelings?" "Sure. What's going on? Has the strategy changed? No longer competing for affection, but now playing hard to get. Let me tell you, stop dreaming. You have to come back within 2 days, or we're breaking up. He still thinks so highly of himself, believing that I can't live without him." "Okay." He froze and, in disbelief, asked me, "What do you mean, okay? What are you talking about? Didn't you say you wanted to break up?" I replied, "Fine, let's break up." John, feeling irritated, explained, "That day at the club, I just pulled the wrong person, I thought it was you. Could you please stop causing a scene? You still have an appointment for the wedding photos this weekend, right? If you come back now, I won't hold the previous issues against you." I've never met someone so rude. I was standing right next to him at the time, while Emma was very far away. He ran back a couple of steps before taking Emma's hand. How could he possibly be mistaken? Didn't he see the message I sent you? We've broken up, so please don't contact me again. I didn't wait for him to say anything more before I hung up the phone and blocked him. This relationship is over. The next day, I got up early and started studying diligently. Since I hadn't been in contact with English for a long time, I struggled a bit in class and needed to spend a lot of time on previewing and reviewing. My busy life allowed me to temporarily forget the pain of lost love, and I hadn't thought about John for quite a while. He hadn't reached out to me either. I thought I would never see him again in this lifetime. One weekend, the doorbell rang. I thought it was the landlord coming to fix the plumbing, but when I opened the door, I found an unexpected visitor, John. Just as I was about to close the door, he stepped in, blocking my way. Was he still angry about how I pulled Emma away during the fire? I had already explained that it was a complete misunderstanding. I thought the person I was pulling was you. Why are you so angry? You blocked my calls and even ran away from home. You've really grown up a lot, haven't you? I'm here to take you back home now. Come on, be good and stop making a scene, okay? I thought I would feel calm, but when I saw you, I still felt a bit wronged. I turned around and wiped away the tears from the corner of my eyes. I didn't cause any trouble. Since you still have feelings for Emma, would it be alright if I leave to let you two be together? John anxiously grabbed my hand, his head bowed like a child who had done something wrong. Sharon, I admit I was really reluctant at first. It's painful to love someone and not be able to have them. He continued. But during the time you've been away, I've finally come to understand my true feelings. I never imagined I would have to part ways with you. I forcefully shook off his hand, looking at his haggard appearance, and all that remained in my heart was exhaustion. John, I heard what you said. You called her your most treasured person, while I am only fit to be a virtuous wife, practical and capable. What exactly do you think of me? The diary you buried deep in the closet is filled with your longing and love for Emma. John, aren't you brave enough to face your own feelings? When I was packing, I found that notebook, and inside it was a photo of Emma, with dates recorded over a span of 7 years. Throughout our 7 years together, John has never been able to forget his first love. John's expression froze as he looked at me in surprise, clearly not expecting me to find the diary he had kept hidden. How could you read my diary? That's my privacy. Can you please respect that? I huffed, looking at the helpless John and finding him utterly boring. Respect what? Respect your feelings while you're still thinking about your ex-girlfriend? Respect the fact that you two are so close in front of me, as if it's a provocation? You chose to protect her and left me behind at a crucial moment, which truly hurts my heart. John, just go away. I don't want to regret having loved you. Just when he was about to explain, the phone suddenly rang. John, I fell and sprained my ankle. Could you come and check on me? On the phone was Emma's voice, and John subconsciously glanced at me. You sprained your ankle and went to the hospital, but I'm not a doctor. He quickly hung up the phone and turned to me with anticipation. Sharon, you see, this time I wasn't called away. From now on, as long as you don't agree, I won't leave you again. The diary entry was just a spur-of-the-moment thing, so don't take it seriously. At that time, I was just feeling a bit resentful. It was merely a fantasy. If I really couldn't let go, I would have chased after him abroad like I am now. As for what I said in the private room that time, I was just drunk and talking nonsense. You shouldn't take it to heart. John has been trying to justify his actions, and if he had explained this patiently before, I might have forgiven him a long time ago. But now, I feel like an observer who can only see his hypocrisy and selfishness. What do you want to express? Tell me, during our 7-year relationship, you were always thinking about your ex-girlfriend, and then after 7 years, you get her but don't cherish her, and now you think it's better that I'm gone. John, If you truly had deep feelings for her and never forgot her, I might still have some respect for you. But right now, you are indecisive, unable to appreciate what you've obtained, and regretting what you've lost, which makes me feel like you're not trustworthy enough. John was rendered speechless and gradually lowered his head under my accusations. Sharon, I know that no matter what I say, it won't make a difference. I will prove to you through my actions that I truly love you. John rented a place across from me. This was a well-considered decision. I understand that my actions have caused you pain, but I can't let go of the 7 years we've shared. Being closer to you allows me to feel more at ease. He goes grocery shopping every day, cooks the meals, and waits at my doorstep with a thermos until I come back. I don't know how long he has been waiting there, but the moment he sees me, a gleam of joy flashes in his eyes. Sharon, you're back. He says. You must not be used to the food abroad. I remember a few dishes you used to make, so I followed online tutorials to prepare squirrel fish, crab rolls, and lion's head meatballs. I think you will definitely like them. The food is freshly heated and ready to eat. We've been together for 7 years, and he's never stepped into the kitchen before. I didn't expect him to be able to cook so many dishes this time. Suddenly, I remembered how I used to come home early every day, look up recipes according to his taste, and prepare a table full of dishes, eagerly waiting for him to come back. Back then, I invested so much in this relationship but received nothing in return. It wasn't until I turned to leave that he finally started to respond, but unfortunately, it was all too late. I pointed to the dishes on his table. John, actually, I don't really like these dishes. What I enjoy eating are twice-cooked pork, boiled fish, and diced chicken with chili. In the past, I often made these dishes not because I loved them, but because you liked them. Since you enjoyed them, even though I didn't really like them, I endured and cooked them to keep you company while eating together. Seeing his astonished expression, I couldn't help but smile wryly. It seems like you've never realized this. Well, it's no surprise, all you can see is Emma, and your heart is filled with her preferences. You've never really cared about me. John cradled his head in his hands, his face filled with regret. How blind was I back then? I didn't say anything and handed him the insulated lunchbox without opening it. Don't do this again, I've already eaten outside. Time flies, and I've been leaving early and coming back late every day, making my days very fulfilling. Before I knew it, the school tests were approaching. In the morning, I was waiting for a ride by the roadside. The car I had booked in advance called to say it had a flat tire and couldn't make it. Time passed second by second, and the exam was drawing closer. I looked at the clock, feeling a bit anxious, hoping to make it in time. Just as I was about to run, worried about being late, I suddenly heard John's voice. He said, I'll give you a ride. After that, he quickly got a motorcycle, handed me a helmet, and sped off toward the school. When we reached the school gate, I got out of the car and thanked him sincerely. No problem. Being able to help you makes me feel somewhat useful. After finishing the exam, I was surprised to find that John was still waiting at the entrance. Leaning against his motorcycle, his handsome figure attracted the attention of many girls. He always exuded confidence. When he saw me approaching, he quickly walked up to me, took my bag from my hand, and naturally helped me put on my helmet. Worried that you might have trouble getting a taxi, has the exam ended? Can you go home now? This is the first time in 7 years that I've seen him so downcast, and it touches my heart a little. His figure is strong and broad, and he used to be the harbor I relied on, but I know that place is not where I belong. After finally looking forward to a vacation, John is waiting for me at my doorstep. He said, Sharon, I've booked a ticket to Iceland. Didn't you always want to see the Northern Lights? I'm not going. I've been there before. When was that? How come I didn't know about it? I stared into his eyes, full of disdain. No, you know. Last November, John had promised me that we would go to Iceland together to see the Northern Lights, and I even saw the booking information on his phone. I thought he would surprise me, but instead, I received a message that he had to work overtime. That day, I stubbornly purchased a ticket for the same flight at a high price, futilely trailing behind John. Watching him and his partner being so sweet together made me feel particularly upset. It was even worse when I saw them kissing under the northern lights and walking into a room together. Now, to me, the northern lights in Iceland have become the most disappointing sight. Just mentioning them makes me feel uneasy. That night, I was standing at the entrance of their hotel when I called John's phone. "Sharon, can you stop being so annoying and checking up on me? I'm on a business trip discussing a project, and I'm exhausted." John looked pale, and his lips were slightly trembling. "Did you go alone?" I smiled, observing the panic in his eyes. My heart felt calm. The pain of the past had long since faded. In truth, there were 3 of us together. I was always behind you, but you were too focused to notice me. I've long forgotten how many times I cried during that trip. I had intentionally placed the souvenirs I bought in Iceland on the coffee table, yet he never paid any attention to them. John sighed helplessly, slumping his shoulders with a bitter smile. "Sharon, I know it's normal for you not to forgive me. I really messed up. During that holiday, I didn't go anywhere. I just stayed home studying and sometimes having dinner with some new friends I met. One night, after coming back from dinner, I had a few drinks, and a male classmate who lived nearby offered to walk me upstairs. I didn't expect that John had been waiting in the stairwell for a long time, looking very upset. "Sharon, what should I do? I used to think that time was on my side, and as long as I stayed close to you, I would eventually win you over and make you reconsider. But now, I suddenly feel very scared. I saw you getting out of another man's car, laughing and talking with him, and I felt an overwhelming sense of jealousy. What can I do to earn your forgiveness?" The next day, he insisted on following me closely, keeping a distance that was neither too far nor too near. Since he wouldn't be a bother, I let him be. When I came out of the mall, a car suddenly rushed toward me. I was so startled that I froze, terrifying memories flooding back to me. Then, I was abruptly pushed to the ground. John held me tightly in his arms, letting out a muffled groan. It was clear that his arm was injured. The cycle of fate seems to have brought us back to where it all began. The scene of my first encounter with him resembles the present moment. I was filled with gratitude back then, but now I feel empty. "John, why are you doing this? You really don't need to." "Sharon, I just can't stand seeing you hurt." That night, I returned to my room, drank a bottle of beer, and kept replaying the moments I had with John in my mind. We had clearly said we would let it go, but today the scene of him protecting me was so shocking that it shattered the emotional barrier I had just built. The next day, as soon as I opened the door, I saw Emma standing across from me. As soon as she laid eyes on me, a flicker of anger flashed in her eyes. "So it was you causing trouble. John was doing fine back home, but suddenly he disappeared and it turns out you brought him here. Weren't you the one who broke up with him? How dare you still try to seduce him?" A hint of anger appeared on Emma's face. "He clearly has feelings for me and still likes me. He has ignored you time and again for my sake. So why is he hiding here now? It's all your fault, isn't it? Are you scheming behind my back?" Emma glared at me with anger. "You don't know, do you? Last November, he accompanied me to Iceland. Do you know what he said at that time? He mentioned that you two had argued a lot, but he believed that watching the northern lights together would be much more romantic. So he loves me and decided to go see the lights with me. Is that so? Well, I wish you a long and happy life together." Seeing her in such an excited state suddenly reminded me of my past self, and it felt quite boring. Emma was still knocking on the door outside. I put on my headphones and began studying, unaware of when the noise outside finally stopped. I don't know if she left on her own or if John put her in there. That day, John didn't message me good morning, good afternoon, or good evening as he usually did. The next morning, as soon as I opened my door, the door across from me opened as well. "Emma, wearing her pajamas, stood at the door, confidently flipping her hair and revealing a red mark on her neck. I told you John loves me the most. You have no idea how enthusiastic he was last night. Sharon, I advise you to stop pursuing this. John is mine, so don't get your hopes up. I nodded, feeling completely calm and no longer disturbed. Well, I hope you two have a harmonious marriage and grow old together. Since then, I haven't seen John again. A long time later, one deep night, I received a call from John. He seemed to be drunk, his voice was hoarse and intermittent. Sharon, I regret it so much. That day, when Emma said she had a stomachache, I felt sorry for her and let her into the house. I didn't expect she had prepared in advance and put drugs in my water. As a result, that night I realized I could no longer turn back and I no longer had the right to stand by your side. Sharon, if only time could be reversed, I would never think of her again. Even so, I still feel somewhat fortunate, grateful that I wasn't deceived by a temporary illusion back then. John, you don't actually need to explain these things, after all, we have already broken up. As for the future, I hope you won't call anymore to avoid any misunderstandings. Sharon, I have one last question, have you ever been pregnant with our child? My thoughts instantly returned to that day during the typhoon when I fell to the ground, my abdomen in excruciating pain, blood mixing with the rainwater beneath me. I looked up, hoping he would take me to the hospital. Instead, he held Emma, worrying for her and afraid that her feet would get wet from the rain. Sharon, don't pretend to feel sorry. With such a big typhoon, I have to take Emma home first. He clearly knew that the weather outside was severe with wind and rain, yet he insisted that I bring rain gear. I thought for a moment and realized that there had indeed been such an incident. It was on that day of the typhoon when I fell down. The doctor said that if I had been taken to the hospital earlier, the child could have been saved. I don't have the ability to bring ruin to his family, but I want to prick his heart with a needle, so that every time he recalls the past, he feels a twinge of pain and can never find peace. After a long time, he said softly, I'm going to marry Emma. He told me that she got pregnant with his child that night, and he couldn't just abandon her. I couldn't help but scoff inwardly. Well, that's great, seems like you two really turned into a couple in the end. Congratulations in advance. You don't need to invite me to the wedding. I deleted his number and blocked him, this time, there's really no turning back. 3 years later, when I returned to my country to visit my teachers, I overheard some discussions among my classmates. They said that after John and Emma got married, the couple who were once so affectionate now constantly argued. Last year, when their son fell ill and needed a bone marrow match, they discovered that the child was not John's. John, furious, wanted a divorce, but Emma firmly disagreed, leading to chaos in their home. Afterward, her son couldn't find a suitable bone marrow match and eventually passed away. Emma lost faith in life and took poison during dinner. After her death, although John survived, he was left paralyzed and unable to move. I smiled but didn't respond. As I walked out of the teacher's house, I saw my boyfriend's car parked by the roadside. Sharon, we agreed that this time you'd introduce me to your family. You can't go back on your word. I smiled as I walked towards her. Well, let's go back now to see my parents. The car started, heading towards my happiness.